Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning, you're grabbing your usual cup of coffee at the drive-thru, and the barista tells you the large latte is now $8.50 instead of $6.75. You hand over the money, you drive away, and somewhere in the back of your mind you think, wait, when did that happen? Or maybe you've been apartment hunting lately. You found a place, you loved it, the rent was listed at $2,400 a month. You called the next day, gone. Someone else snatched it up within hours, and the landlord already raised the next unit to $2,700. Or here's a classic one. You're at a car dealership in 2021 and the salesman actually laughs, politely but still laughs, when you ask about a discount, because there are no discounts. The car costs more than the sticker price. More than the sticker price. If any of those moments have happened to you, you've been on the receiving end of one of the most powerful forces in all of economics, and most people never truly understand why it happened to them. Today, we're changing that. My name is Emily, and in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the single framework that explains nearly every financial decision, every price movement, and every economic trend you will ever encounter in your lifetime. We're talking about supply and demand, but not the boring textbook version with those crossing lines on a graph. We're going to talk about it the way it actually shows up in your life, in your wallet, and in your financial future. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to see the world completely differently. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the fundamentals, but let's make them actually stick. Here's the truth. Supply and demand is not a theory. It's a description of human behavior. It's literally just this. When people want something and there isn't enough of it, the price goes up. When there's too much of something and not enough people want it, the price goes down. That's it. That's the whole thing. But here's where it gets interesting. The reason this formula explains everything is because it doesn't just apply to coffee and cars. It applies to your salary. It applies to your mortgage rate. It applies to your retirement account. It applies to the very neighborhood you live in. Let me show you what I mean. Right now, in the United States, the Federal Reserve tracks something called the labor market. And here's a statistic that might surprise you. As of recent data, there are roughly 1.4 job openings for every unemployed person in America. That means there are more jobs than there are people to fill them in many sectors. What does supply and demand tell us happens when there's more demand for workers than supply of workers? Wages go up. And that's exactly what we've seen. Average hourly earnings in the US increased by over 4% year over year in multiple recent reporting periods. But here's the flip side. The same principle crushes certain workers. Think about what happened to travel agents. There were 124,000 travel agents employed in the US in 2000. By 2023, that number had dropped to around 46,000. Why? Because the internet created a new supply of information and booking tools, so the demand for human travel agents collapsed. Supply went up, demand went down. Price, meaning wages and jobs, went down too. This is why understanding this framework isn't just academic, it's survival. Now, here's where most people's understanding stops and where yours is about to begin. See, most people think of supply and demand as something that happens to them, like weather. You just experience it. The price goes up, you grumble, you pay it. But here's what most people never realize. You are always on one side of this equation, and sometimes you're on both sides at the same time. Think about your house. If you own a home in America, your home is an asset. As a seller, even if you're not selling today, you want the price to go up. You want high demand and low supply. You benefit from your neighborhood becoming more desirable, from fewer new homes being built, from zoning restrictions that limit construction. But as a citizen, you also need housing to be affordable for your kids, for your community, for essential workers who keep your neighborhood functioning. These two interests are in direct conflict, and which side wins depends entirely on supply and demand dynamics in your local market. Here's a number that should make you stop scrolling if you're watching this casually. The median home price in the United States in January 2000 was approximately $165,000. By early 2024, that number had risen to over $400,000. That's a 142% increase. Meanwhile, median household income grew from roughly $42,000 to about $74,000 over the same period, a 76% increase. Prices went up 142%. Income went up 76%. That gap, that's supply and demand telling you a very specific story. Housing supply did not keep pace with population growth, urbanization, and demand, and the people who owned homes got richer. The people who didn't got priced out. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it, housing is expensive, but what do I do with this information? We'll get there. First, I want to go even deeper. Here's the thing that makes supply and demand really fascinating and also kind of terrifying. It's not just about physical goods, it's about perception. Think about this. Why does a Rolex watch cost $15,000 when it doesn't tell time any better than a $50 Casio? Why does a college degree from Harvard cost $320,000 over 4 years when you could learn the same information online for a fraction of the cost? The answer is artificial scarcity, perceived demand, and the psychology of exclusivity. Rolex deliberately limits production. They could make more watches, they choose not to, because scarcity creates desire, and desire drives price. Harvard admits only about 3.6% of applicants. Think about that, 3.6%. Not because there isn't enough lecture hall space to admit more students, it's because the scarcity of admission is what makes the degree valuable. This is supply and demand being weaponized by institutions that understand it deeply. And if you don't understand it, you're the one paying $15,000 for a watch or going $200,000 into debt for a diploma. Sometimes wisely, sometimes not. But here's where this gets personal. You do this too. We all do. Ever paid more for something just because there were only 2 left? That little voice that says, well, if everyone else wants it, it must be worth it, that's manufactured scarcity activating your demand response. It's called FOMO, fear of missing out, and retailers engineer it deliberately. The Amazon "only 3 left in stock" message, the hotel booking site that shows 8 people looking at this room right now, the limited edition sneaker drop. These are all supply and demand manipulations designed to make you spend more than you planned. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. All right, let's talk about the stock market, because this is where supply and demand becomes a money machine if you understand it, and a money grinder if you don't. Here's the simplest possible truth about stock prices. A stock price is just the price at which the last buyer and seller agreed to transact. That's it. It's not a measure of a company's true value. It's not a reflection of economic reality. It's purely what did someone agree to pay right now? And what drives that agreement? Supply and demand. When a company announces great earnings, more people want to buy the stock. Demand goes up. When there are only so many shares available, supply is fixed in the short term, the price has to rise until enough sellers decide the price is worth selling. Now, here's where most retail investors get destroyed. They confuse popular with valuable. They see a stock going up, Tesla, GameStop, crypto, whatever the moment's darling is, and they interpret rising price as rising value. But rising price just means rising demand relative to supply. GameStop is the perfect case study. In January 2021, GameStop stock went from about $20 per share to nearly $500 per share in 2 weeks. Did GameStop's business suddenly become 25 times more valuable? Absolutely not. In fact, the company was struggling. What happened was a massive demand shock. Thousands of retail investors on Reddit coordinating to buy simultaneously, hitting a very limited supply of available shares. Demand exploded, supply was constrained, price skyrocketed. And then, demand evaporated. Supply flooded in as early buyers sold. Price crashed back down. People who bought at the top lost 90% of their money. Same company, same fundamentals, completely different price because supply and demand had momentarily disconnected from reality. The investors who made money, they understood the dynamic. They bought early, rode the demand wave, and sold before the correction. The investors who lost money, they saw a rising price and assumed it meant rising value. That assumption cost them dearly. Now, let me give you the framework for avoiding this in your own investing. The question you should always ask is, why is demand going up? Is it because the underlying value has genuinely increased, better business, stronger earnings, competitive moat, or because of sentiment, hype, or artificial scarcity? Genuine demand is sustainable. Hype-driven demand collapses. Okay, now I want to get personal, because here's a truth that most financial content won't say directly. Your salary is a price, and your skills are a supply and demand market. Think about that for a second. When you negotiate your salary, you're not just asking for a raise. You're participating in a market where your labor is the product, and you need to understand both sides of the equation. Let me ask you something. Are you in a growing field or a shrinking one? Here's what the data says about growing fields right now in the US. Cybersecurity professionals, the Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 32% job growth over the next decade. Nurse practitioners, 38% growth. Data scientists, 36% growth. What about declining fields? Administrative assistants, projected -9% change. Word processing specialists, down significantly. Insurance underwriters, projected -4%. Now, I'm not saying abandon your current career, but I am saying your income ceiling is determined largely by the supply of people who can do what you do versus the demand for what you do. Here's the uncomfortable math. If you're in a field where 10,000 people can do exactly what you do, and companies only need 8,000 of those people, basic supply and demand says your wages are going to be pressured downward. There's a surplus of supply relative to demand. But if you're the one person in your company who understands both the marketing data and the technical infrastructure that generates it, you've just manufactured scarcity of your own labor. Demand for your specific skill set is high. Supply, meaning other people who have that same exact combination, is low. Your negotiating power skyrockets. This is why the most financially strategic career move you can make is to constantly ask, what is the supply and demand situation for my specific skill set, and how can I shift toward a combination that creates scarcity in my own labor market? The people who earn $200,000 a year are not necessarily smarter than the people who earn $50,000 a year, but they have often, deliberately or accidentally, positioned themselves in a labor market where demand for their skills exceeds supply.
We need to talk about inflation, because inflation is supply and demand playing out across the entire economy simultaneously. Here's how most people think about inflation. Prices go up because companies are greedy. That's not really how it works, or at least it's not the full story. Let's go back to 2020 and 2021. The pandemic hit. Factories shut down, shipping containers were stuck in the wrong ports. Semiconductor plants couldn't keep up with demand. The supply of almost everything contracted sharply. At the same time, the US government sent out trillions of dollars in stimulus. Consumers had cash, businesses were reopening, demand surged. Supply down, demand up. What do you expect to happen to prices? They exploded. US inflation hit 9.1% in June 2022, the highest level in 40 years. That means $100 of groceries in 2020 cost $109.10 in 2022. Your rent, your gas, your food, all of it got more expensive, not because companies suddenly decided to be greedy, but because supply and demand had gone wildly out of balance. Now, here's where the Federal Reserve comes in. The Fed's primary tool for fighting inflation is raising interest rates. Why? Because higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive. When borrowing is expensive, businesses invest less, consumers spend less, and demand begins to cool. Less demand, same or recovering supply, prices stabilize. But here's what the textbook doesn't tell you about how this affects your personal finances. When interest rates go up, everything borrowed gets more expensive. Your mortgage rate jumps from 3% to 7%. That's the difference between a $1,500 monthly payment and a $2,200 monthly payment on a $300,000 home loan. That's $8,400 extra per year. That's a second car payment. At the same time, if you have savings, finally, for the first time in years, your high-yield savings account is paying you 4.5% to 5% in interest. Supply and demand for money itself has shifted. This is the crux of what separates people who get richer during economic turmoil from people who get poorer. The ones who understand that interest rates are just the price of money, governed by supply and demand for capital, can position themselves on the right side of the equation. Here's where I want to blow your mind a little bit, because this is the insight that most people, even smart, financially educated people, miss. Most people think that to build wealth, you need to find things that are valuable, but that's not quite right. To build wealth, you need to find things that are going to become more demanded relative to their supply before everyone else figures that out. Think about the people who bought houses in Brooklyn or Austin or Denver in 2012. Were those cities magically more valuable overnight? No. But people who understood urban migration trends, remote work possibilities, and demographic shifts could see that demand for housing in certain cities was going to dramatically outpace supply. They bought early. They got rich. Think about the people who invested in index funds in 2009, right after the financial crisis, when fear was maximum and prices were at rock bottom. The S&P 500 hit a low of around 666 points in March 2009. As of 2024, it's trading above 5,000. That's a 650% return. A $10,000 investment in 2009 would be worth over $75,000 today. But here's the hardest part. At those moments when demand is lowest, when fear is highest, when supply is flooding in as people panic sell, that is psychologically the hardest time to buy. Every instinct says sell, not buy. The most successful investors aren't the ones with the most information. They're the ones who can act against the crowd when supply and demand have disconnected from fundamental value. They buy when others are selling because they understand that current low demand is temporary and intrinsic value hasn't changed. Warren Buffett said it plainly, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." Translated into supply and demand, buy when supply is high and demand is low, if you believe fundamental value justifies it. Sell when demand is high and supply is constrained, even if it feels uncomfortable. All right. Let's bring it home. Supply and demand isn't just an economics concept, it's a lens. And once you learn to see through it, you start making smarter decisions about your career, your investments, your housing, your spending, all of it. Here are the 3 things I want you to do this week. Just 3. Number 1, look at one purchase you made recently, a subscription, a product, a meal, and ask yourself, was I manipulated by artificial scarcity? Was FOMO driving my decision? Understanding that in hindsight builds the muscle to catch it in the future. Number 2, research the supply and demand situation for your job field. Look up Bureau of Labor Statistics projections for your occupation. Find out if you're swimming with the current or against it. Then ask, what one skill could I add that shifts the equation in my favor? Number 3, the next time you hear the word inflation or interest rate hike on the news, translate it into plain language, supply of money versus demand for money. Ask yourself, which side of this equation am I on, and how can I be on the right side? That's it. 3 steps. The framework is yours now. If this video helped you see your finances differently, subscribe, because this is what we do here. We take the complex and make it actionable. We take the intimidating and make it approachable. And remember, the formula isn't complicated. Supply goes up, price goes down. Demand goes up, price goes up. Every single financial force in your life, your salary, your mortgage, your portfolio, your retirement, all of it runs on those 8 words. Use them. See you in the next one.